Hello everyone. This is a story for you to fall asleep with. Before you get comfortable, like the video and subscribe for more. Also, comment where are you from and what time are you listening. Enjoy.
I've been on more dates than I care to admit. No exaggeration. If every first date were a page, I could bind a novella of awkward silences, mismatched expectations, and polite goodbyes that meant nothing. Most of them blur together now. Smiles over lattes, empty laughter, the gentle buzz of my phone with a text that never comes. I guess it's easy to sound bitter, but that's not quite it. I'm tired. Tired in that quiet, heavy way you get when you've hoped too many times and watched that hope dissolve. I'm Martin, 36, art director. I create concepts for people who don't know what they want until I show it to them. It's rewarding, it's exhausting, and it keeps me sane. I was raised by my grandparents Hans and Mina, fell in love over opera and apricot jam, married, moved into a flat in Leopoldstadt, and stayed there until my grandfather died 8 years ago. They were unshakable. The way he looked at her even when she forgot his name. Near the end, that kind of love burns itself into your bones. So yes, I've spent a lot of years chasing the ghost of that kind of connection. And mostly, I've failed. I've dated women who liked my manners but not my heart. Women who said I was sweet but a little too serious. Women who didn't see the part of me that can't stop looking for something real. Something that doesn't fade when things stop being easy. Most nights, I come home to a silent flat filled with books and half-finished ideas. I pour myself a glass of Zweigelt and stare at my phone, waiting, wanting, sometimes wondering if I should just stop. Last week, I nearly deleted the app. Again, but I didn't. Instead, I saw her. A woman with black hair laughing into the wind. Not posing, just being. Her smile wasn't perfect, but it was real. She looked like someone who interrupted herself mid-sentence. Someone whose thoughts spilled out too fast for her tongue to keep up. Her name was Anna. I swiped right. And seconds later, my phone buzzed. It's a match. Some people fall in love like it's gravity. Effortless. Instant. I fall in love like a thunderstorm loud. Wild. Full of electricity. And always just a little too much. At least, that's what I've been told. I'm Anna, 37. HR lead at a logistics company that's grown faster than anyone knows what to do with. I'm the kind of person you want in your corner during a crisis, and the one who forgets where she left her phone while she's still on it. ADHD, diagnosed late, lived with forever. It's not a flaw, it's my superpower. But it does mean I talk too fast, jump between ideas like stepping stones in a river, and sometimes forget appointments unless I tie them to a song, a snack, or a sticky note on my bathroom mirror. Relationships, I've had a few. Long ones, serious ones, ones I bled for. The last one lasted 7 years. I gave everything, my time, my laughter, my tears. He gave me uncertainty, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, always pulling away when I needed him to lean in. I fought. God, I fought hard, because I believed in us. But loving someone shouldn't feel like drowning. So I swam to shore. I got out, and I told myself, no more fixing people, no more setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm. These days, I fill my calendar with brunches and board game nights. I'm the fun friend, the reliable one, the one with the big laugh and the loud opinions. But at night, when the flat is quiet and the lights are low, I lie on my couch and wonder, will anyone ever love all of me? The mess, the energy, the heart that still dares to want? I'd already deleted all my dating apps except one. I kept it for the memes, honestly. Then I saw him. Brown eyes, subtle smile, a scarf wrapped too well to be accidental. He stood in front of a museum, Vienna behind him like it belonged to him. His bio was short, looking for what lasts. I stared at it longer than I meant to. And then, almost against my own rules, I swiped. It's a match. The message came quickly. She said, "You look like someone who knows how to pick wine, so I'm going to need you to prove it." I stared at it for a moment, amused and a little stunned. No small talk, no hi, just straight into playful challenge. I liked that. I liked her. We chatted, rapid fire, back and forth. Her thoughts had this kinetic energy like flipping through radio stations and somehow catching the best parts of every song. She made me laugh. She made me think. She made me pause and reread her messages just to enjoy them again. She suggested we meet that same day at the Spitalberg Christmas market. I hesitated. It felt fast, but maybe fast was exactly what I needed after years of slow disappointments. So I layered up. Gray coat, knit scarf, leather gloves. I took the tram and got off 2 stops early, just to walk and steady my nerves. The air smelled like cinnamon and pine. Lights hung overhead in gentle zigzags, casting golden halos on everyone who passed beneath them. And then I saw her. She was standing next to a stand selling roasted chestnuts, bundled in a green coat, with a mismatched beanie over her shiny black hair. She looked down at her phone and then up again with a smile so disarmingly warm, it short-circuited my doubts. "Martin?" she called, waving both hands. I smiled. "Anna." And just like that, we were no longer messages on a screen. We were real. And I had no idea what I was walking into. But I knew one thing. I wanted to keep walking with her. He looked different in person, taller, his presence somehow steadier than it had been in my head. He had the kind of face that calms you quiet eyes, a mouth that held back more than it said, and a way of standing like he wasn't in a rush for anything except to be exactly where he was. We walked slowly through the Spitalberg market. The scent of roasted almonds and mulled wine danced between the stalls. Children bundled in scarves laughed behind us, chasing the warm plumes of their own breath. Martin was different. Not flashy, not loud, just intentional. The way he listened made me talk more than I usually do. I kept catching myself, checking if I was overwhelming him. But he never looked away. He nodded, smiled, added just enough. He told me about his grandparents, how his grandfather carved tiny animals from wood one every anniversary for over 50 years. His voice softened when he talked about them. I could hear the ache underneath, but also a kind of reverence I wasn't used to in men. At one point, he stopped us in front of a stall selling handmade ornaments. Without saying a word, he reached for onion elephant carved from olive wood and handed it to me. "For the memory," he said. I took it, speechless for once. We drank glühwein under twinkling lights, and I found myself forgetting about all the men who had ghosted, flaked, or made me feel too much. Martin wasn't a spark. He was a slow-burning flame. As we said goodbye, I didn't expect him to kiss me. He didn't. He just took my hand in both of his and said, "I'd like to see you again." I walked away grinning like a teenager, ornament in my pocket, hope blooming wild and a little reckless in my chest. Something told me this might be the beginning of everything I didn't know I still believed in. I barely slept that night, not because I was anxious, but because my mind kept replaying her laugh, the way it cracked open so suddenly and filled the space between us like warm light. I sat at my kitchen counter at 2 in the morning, sipping lukewarm tea, smiling like an idiot. There was something about her, something unedited, unapologetic. She said things most people only thought. She asked questions that didn't feel rehearsed. She made eye contact like she was trying to memorize me. And when I handed her that wooden elephant, I watched her face go still, like something in her heart paused and listened. I didn't mean it to be a big gesture, but it became one. We texted that night, simple things. Thank you. That was lovely. Let's do it again. But even her messages had energy. Little bursts of color on my screen. The next day, she beat me to it. Coffee or art, she wrote. I'm free after 5. Or I could kidnap you and make you explain why modern sculpture looks like my laundry pile. I chuckled and texted back. Let's meet at the Albertina 5:30. I'll explain chaos with confidence. She sent a thumbs up emoji, then a penguin. No context. I loved that. The second date felt easy, natural, like slipping into a conversation we'd been having for years. In the gallery, she asked the kind of questions people are usually too self-conscious to ask. Do artists know they're making history, or does it sneak up on them? She stood too close to the paintings, tilted her head sideways, narrated her own interpretations like a dramatic tour guide. It should have annoyed me. It didn't. It made me want to kiss her. Outside, the street was quiet, coated in early December snow. She pulled her scarf up to her nose. We stood there awkwardly for a moment, the silence hanging like an invitation neither of us dared to accept first. And then she leaned in, lightly, deliberately. I met her halfway, and under that street lamp, with the city breathing softly around us, we kissed. Not because it was the perfect time, but because it was the right one. I walked home in the kind of haze that only comes after a perfect kiss. Not a fireworks and violins kind of kiss, no. Something better. A quiet, grounding one. The kind that lingers like a secret between your lips and your chest. He had this way of being present, really present, like the world didn't pull at him the way it pulled at everyone else. With Martin, I felt like I could talk forever and not run out of room. No apologies. No shrinking, just space, just light. I found myself humming as I peeled off my boots, my cheeks still warm even in the hallway mirror. I stared at my reflection and whispered aloud, like an idiot, "Well, damn." The next few days blurred in the best way. Texts became habits, voice notes with tired voices, and guess what happened today? Stories became our good-night routine. We met again and again. Dinner at a tiny Korean place. A walk along the Donau Canal, where I accidentally knocked his coffee into the river, and he said, "Guess I'll have to romanticize my heartbreak now." He was funny, but only when it mattered. That dry, perfectly timed kind of funny that caught me off guard and made me double over. I brought him into my world, too. Introduced him to my loudest, nosiest friends at a trivia night, where he answered 3 entire rounds by himself and then blushed when they all cheered. My best friend, Miriam, leaned in at the bar and whispered, "Keep this one." And I wanted to. I wanted to keep him, to hold this moment between both palms and protect it from the weight of all my doubts. But there was always a flicker in the corner of my mind. How long could something this good last? Still, I held on, because maybe, just maybe this time, the answer was, as long as we wanted. Falling into rhythm with someone doesn't happen all at once. It's not fireworks. It's a series of small decisions, quiet agreements, 1,000 tiny me too moments strung together until suddenly you're sharing a life. We cooked together, stumbled into each other in the kitchen like a slow dance with mismatched steps. We learned each other's grocery quirks. She insisted on labeling spices. I bought 6 kinds of pasta with no plan. He folded laundry like origami. I threw socks into a drawer and called it efficiency. It was domestic and warm and new. Martin was slow to open up, but when he did, it was with the kind of sincerity that made you sit down and hold your breath. He'd share memories out of nowhere, a train ride with his grandfather, the sound of his grandmother's laugh when she burned toast. I never felt like I had to pull the words from him. They arrived when they were ready, like birds landing quietly on your shoulder. And I was loud. I talked too much. I filled the room and bounced from idea to idea like a pinball. But he didn't flinch. He made space. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a fling or a winter romance. This was the beginning of a language only we spoke. Spring crept in slowly. Vienna thawed, and so did the parts of me I didn't realize had gone cold. With Anna, things didn't feel rushed, but they moved. Our lives started to overlap naturally, 2 separate melodies slowly harmonizing. She wanted to get out of the city for a weekend. Bratislava, she suggested over breakfast, toast in one hand, my phone already in hers checking train times. We went. It was chaotic and unplanned. She overpacked, forgot her passport, talked us into a bar crawl that ended with us singing ABBA with strangers at midnight. But it was perfect. I watched her dance with no rhythm but all joy, her hair wild, her laugh echoing down cobbled alleys. And I thought, this is what it feels like to choose someone again and again. In quiet mornings, in crowded streets, in all the unphotogenic moments that still manage to glow. Martin made playlists for everything. Rainy Tuesday, burnt toast recovery. You had a hard day, but you're still brilliant. No one had ever made a playlist for me before. Not like that. He was gentle with his love. Careful, not afraid, but intentional. And I realized that in all my past relationships, I had been the one holding everything up, carrying the weight of us. Here, with him, I was allowed to rest, to just be. We had our moments, of course. I once left a candle burning overnight, and he found it in the morning and went completely silent. We didn't speak for hours, but when we did, it wasn't blame. It was fear, love, relief all tangled up. He kissed the top of my head and said, "You matter more than you know." That night, I fell asleep curled against him, his heartbeat steady beneath my cheek, and thought, this is what it means to be safe. A year passed, almost quietly, not in the way that nothing happened, but in the way that everything began to feel like it belonged. Our routines became rituals. Saturday mornings were for open-air markets and soft-boiled eggs. Thursday nights were for watching documentaries we never finished. And every evening ended with the same question, whispered in the dark, "Still with me?" "Still with you." We returned to the Spittelberg Christmas market, hand in hand. Same lights, same scent of cinnamon and pine. But this time, we were different. Less guarded, more certain. Martin stopped in front of the same chestnut stand where we had first met. He turned to me. held out a small velvet pouch. Inside was a tiny wooden fox. "Thought we'd start our own tradition," he said, eyes warm. I couldn't speak, so I kissed him. Right there, in the middle of the bustling street, with the snow beginning to fall again. It wasn't dramatic. That's the thing most people get wrong about breakpoints. They don't always arrive like earthquakes. Sometimes they slip in like drafts under a closed door. I forgot our dinner plans. Again, work was chaos. I double-booked myself with a team review and a Zoom call with our regional office. I texted Martin too late. He didn't reply. When I came home, the table was still set. 2 plates. Candles melted halfway down. "I'm sorry," I said. He didn't yell. He just looked tired. "It's the 3rd time," he said. "I know. Do you?" We sat in silence, both of us nursing the ache between our ribs. Later that night, we argued. The kind that doesn't explode, but erodes. He felt like I didn't make space for him. I felt like I was drowning under expectations and didn't know how to ask for help. No one slept much. When the job offer came, it felt like a test from the universe. Regional director, Singapore. A position I wasn't even sure I wanted until it was in front of me. I stared at the email for hours, not because I didn't know what to do, but because I knew exactly what it might cost. I waited a full day before I told Martin. He listened, didn't interrupt, just watched me with those serious eyes. "You want to go?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "But I don't want to leave you." "Then don't." But it wasn't that simple. She sat on the couch across from me like she was bracing for an earthquake, hands clasped tightly in her lap, legs bouncing. "I haven't accepted it yet," she said, "but you're thinking about it." "I'd be stupid not to." I nodded, tried to keep my breathing steady. "Then we'll go together." Her head snapped up. "What?" "I said I'd follow you next time. I meant it." She blinked, startled. "But your work, your gallery, your life here." "Anna," I said gently, "I love my life here, but not more than I love us. And work can travel, so can I." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she crossed the room and sat beside me, rested her forehead against mine. "You'd really move to Singapore?" "I'd move to the moon if it meant waking up next to you." The decision was made quietly, not with fireworks, but with checklists and apartment viewings and visa applications. We were terrified. We were excited. We sold half our furniture. We said goodbye to Vienna, one coffee shop at a time. Singapore welcomed us with humidity and neon. It felt like landing on another planet. But we adjusted, clumsily at first. We learned new words, new roots, new flavors. Durian the fruit and the cake entered our lives with equal parts confusion and curiosity. We made a new home. It was harder than I thought. I loved my job, but it demanded everything. Martin struggled to find his creative footing. The time zones wore us down, and there were nights we barely said more than 2 words before collapsing into bed. But we made room for each other, even in the chaos. We explored hawker centers and temples and hidden bookstores. We celebrated small wins. Martin's first local art client, my first successful regional audit with cheap champagne and midnight walks. And every evening, no matter how hard or heavy, we came back to the same truth. We chose this. We chose us. I hadn't realized how much I relied on Vienna's stillness until I was surrounded by Singapore's pulse. Every street hummed with motion. Every corner glowed with energy. For someone like Anna, it was nourishment. For someone like me, it took time. I struggled, not with her, but with myself. My work didn't flow. I felt like a stranger in my own head. Clients were hard to come by, galleries harder still. I wandered through art districts with a sketchbook and a coffee that always tasted too sweet. But then I found a co-working space, a quiet place tucked above a florist, where the walls were white and the windows opened to the scent of jasmine. That was where it began again, one idea at a time. I met other creatives: Ray, a meticulous Japanese photographer with a love for shadow, and Sam, an Australian graphic designer who swore by minimalism and durian smoothies. Anna cheered every tiny step forward, even when I doubted myself. She didn't. That became my anchor. We built something from scratch in a place that didn't know us, and somehow that made it more real. I came home one evening to find him painting again. He had set up a makeshift easel on the balcony, paperweights holding down the edges of his canvas, his shirt flecked with color. It was a cityscape, but not of Singapore, not Vienna either. I think it's us, he said, not looking up. Or what home looks like when you don't tie it to a map. I sat down beside him and just watched. I knew then that we weren't lost. We were in motion. Later that night, we danced in the living room to a playlist he made called "When You Can't Sleep But Love Is Loud." I laughed until I cried. Not because anything was wrong, but because everything, at last, was right. We created new traditions. Friday nights at the Hawker Center down the block. Sunday mornings with mangosteens and bad coffee. We printed photos and taped them to the fridge. We argued about laundry, kissed in elevators, and learned what it meant to belong to each other every day. There was no grand epiphany, just this ongoing unfolding, a slow, deliberate choosing. Love wasn't a finish line, it was a landscape. And we kept walking through it, side by side. It happened on a Thursday. I was running late, juggling too many projects, when I opened the door and there he was. Lucas. I hadn't seen him in years. He looked older, but the same in that eerie way that time preserves certain people. Same jawline, same smirk, the same voice that used to talk me in circles until I didn't trust my own thoughts. He was in Singapore for a leadership conference, found me through a mutual friend. I just wanted to say hi, catch up. Martin stood behind me. I felt his presence before I saw him, calm, observing. I didn't invite Lucas in. I didn't have to. Closure doesn't always need a conversation. Sometimes it only needs contrast. Later that night, I told Martin everything. How much I had changed. How much he had changed me, just by seeing me clearly. He didn't say anything right away. He just held my hand and kissed the top of my head. The next morning, I got an email from Vienna. A gallery I had worked with years ago offered me a permanent curator position, one of those roles you dream about when you're 25 and hungry. I stared at the screen for a long time, and for once, I didn't feel excited. I felt torn. Anna found me on the balcony, laptop still open on my lap. "Big news?" she asked, eyebrow raised. I nodded. "Vienna wants me back." She sat down beside me, curling her legs underneath. "Do you want to go back?" "Only if you come with me." She smiled, a little sadly. "I think I'm ready." And just like that, a new future started to write itself. We returned to Vienna in September, not because we ran from Singapore, but because we had gathered enough of it to carry home. We found a new apartment half a block from the Naschmarkt. Martin took the gallery role. I arranged a hybrid position, remote work, monthly travel. And we began again. Not at the beginning, but from a place deeper in. With our roots stronger, our laughter louder, our story far from over. Rebuilding in Vienna wasn't just about logistics, it was about feeling like we belonged again. There were familiar things, bakeries that still remembered my name, the way the city glowed golden in winter. But we were different. We hosted dinner parties with mismatched wine glasses and too much laughter. We took weekend trips with no itinerary. I'd find Martin sketching in cafes, a dozen sugar packets stacked beside his coffee. We talked about kids, not in the hypothetical way, but in the late night, lying on the floor kind of way. I was scared. He was steady. "I think I want that kind of chaos," I whispered. He looked at me like I'd handed him the world. We tried. When the second test came back positive months later, we didn't jump or cry. We just sat there holding hands, breathless and quiet, like we were waiting for the earth to settle. It did. She was born in January, on the snowiest day Vienna had seen in years. Mina, named after the woman who raised me to believe in love that stays. We still go to the Spittelberg market every year, now with a stroller and mittens and one very loud toddler insisting on holding both our hands at once. Martin buys a carved ornament from the same stand. Anna gets glühwein and sticky pastries. Mina laughs until her cheeks flush. "This is where we started," Martin always says. "No," Anna answers. "We started the moment we didn't give up." Years later, we still tell people how we met. Over mulled wine and laughter, through misunderstandings and second chances, across continents and back again. Our story isn't extraordinary because it's flawless. It's extraordinary because we chose to stay, to grow, to try. Because love, real love, isn't just a spark. It's the warmth that follows. And all it took was one last swipe,